to a sound clip from our Bible study discussion every Tuesday night from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. in Pakalani. Please enjoy.
To start off with, could somebody read Matthew 22, verse 1 to 14? It's the parable of the wedding banquet. Anyone?
Do you have a preferred version?
I'm an NIV guy, so it doesn't have to be, but sure.
Matthew 22 from 1?
Verse 1 to 14.
Okay. The parable of the wedding banquet. Matthew 22 verse 1. Jesus spoke to them again in parables, saying, "The kingdom of heaven is like a king who prepared a wedding banquet for his son. He sent his servants to those who had been invited to the banquet to tell them to come, but they refused to come. Then he sent some more servants and said, 'Tell those who have been invited that I've prepared dinner. My oxen and fattened cattle have been butchered, and everything is ready. Come to the wedding banquet.' But they paid no attention and went off, one to his field, another to his business. The rest seized his servants, mistreated them, and killed them. The king was enraged. He sent his army and destroyed those murderers and burned their city. Then he said to his servants, 'The wedding banquet is ready, but those I invited did not deserve to come. So go to the street corners and invite to the banquet anyone you find.' So the servants went out into the streets and gathered all the people they could find, the bad as well as the good, and the wedding hall was filled with guests. But when the king came in to see the guests, he noticed a man who was not wearing wedding clothes. He asked, 'How did you get in here without wedding clothes, friend?' The man was speechless. Then the king told the attendants, 'Tie him hand and foot and throw him outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth.' 14. For many are invited, but few are chosen."
All right, thank you for reading. So, that's quite a heavy parable. About a month ago, I read this passage and it stuck with me. The question I asked myself was, who was the man tossed out, and who is this parable directed at? Now, at first glance, it reads as a warning about eternity, right? Many are invited, but few respond to the call. So I want to first start off by contextualizing this segment before unpacking the reading. Now, just for context, a few verses earlier, we get another two parables to the same effect. Many are invited to eternal life, but few respond to the call. We see this with the parable of the two sons and the parable of the tenant. Now, in the former, tells a story of two sons who are asked to do work by the father. Now, the one son agrees but doesn't do it, while the other disagrees but still does it. It's clearly a lesson on obedience. Those who do the work of the Lord, so those who obey his will and commandments, will inherit the kingdom of heaven. The lesson is drilled in the subsequent parable with a more violent message. In short, those who do the will of the Lord will keep the gift of eternal life. For those unfamiliar with the story, a landowner tells his servants to fetch his fruits or his harvest, but the tenant beats, chased, and killed his servants, including his own son, who he did not spare when he came. In fact, Jesus said he would share his fruit with others. Now, this is what I'd like to put forward to everyone here in terms of the parable that was just read about who that man was. So the servants went out into the streets and gathered all the people they could find, the bad as well as the good. And the wedding was filled with guests. So let me unpack the symbols. So firstly, if we look at that parable, the kingdom of heaven is likened to a wedding banquet. His guests he initially invites are the Jews. His servants can be read as the prophets and teachers of his law and truth. The way they treat his servants, in this case the Jews, alludes to the treatment of his messengers who were ignored and even killed, like John the Baptist, who was beheaded. As described earlier in the parable, the violent takeover could be compared to the Roman occupation of Jerusalem. However, there is a problem. There is still a party, so the king, i.e. God, sends his messengers to all people, basically social outcasts, right? Tax collectors, prostitutes, the unclean, heathens, aka us non-Jews. We can already see the theme of grace emerging in the story, as the undeserving are invited to the kingdom of heaven, and guess what? They are cleared at the door. It was a full party, but we find a man who was not dressed in wedding clothes, and God was not happy, and I think this is where the message of grace falls short. I believe the wedding clothes are symbolic. Let me put it like this. You can't come to the banquet unchanged. You can't come into the presence of God and remain as you were when he found you on the streets. He won't be happy. So the parable's also directed at us so-called believers who need to change out of our rags into our robes of holiness and godliness. Everyone at the party was such a person. We see this idea consistent later on in the New Testament when Paul introduces the idea of the armor of God being something we put on. So perhaps God was upset because someone responded to the call without dressing for the occasion. So the question to you is, are you still on the streets? We are all invited to eternal life, but few choose to respond to the call. Why, you might ask? The answer hinges on obedience, like the disgruntled son who does the work of his father, or the landlord who shares his harvest with those who are faithful to the task. So, for the questions I've prepared on the teaching is, firstly, what did you learn that was new? What resonated with you? And what will you do differently? So, I think that's the teaching right there. Yeah.
Thank you for taking your time to listen to the sound clip. Feel free to comment in the comment section and meet us in person if and when you can. May God bless you.